or club who is a past district governor would be guilty of this. But some of the times it was, I call it M&M talk, money and membership. You aren't going to hear that today. You're probably going to have some questions. Maybe we can go in the chat to participate. But honestly, you know what? Over the past 21 months, Rotarians, especially in this district, have shown an unbelievable amount of resilience. You know, we've had a global pandemic, political unrest, high unemployment, now supply chain shortages, wildfires, ice storms, unbearable heat, yet every one of us are still here and we're gathered to make a difference. So hats off to you for showing that resilience. And this year, I commit to you on behalf of the district leadership team that we are here to serve clubs, to ensure their success, and continue for you to make a difference in the world. I would even say is we'd be on fire for clubs, and allow me to share with you what I mean by fire. FIRE is an acronym for flexibility, impact, reach, and engagement. I'd like us to just hold on to that because we're going to visit that. But for right now, you know what? It's worthwhile to share with you that we've adopted a servitude leadership style. Inherent in that means that our purpose is to ensure the success of clubs with their vision and goals, and to help club leaders and members continue to make a difference. Each club has a unique way of operating. We understand that. They have their own culture. Might I share with you, though, as they say now, one Rotary International says there's 1.4 million people in Rotary. 200,000 of those are Rotaractors, 1.2 are Rotarians, and so collectively the Rotarian family is 1.4 million. I will share with you that each and every club has a unique way, but we are tied together by our core values. Let's spend briefly a couple of minutes talking about what the core values are. The first one is leadership. If you'd be so kind, I'd love for you to think about somebody in your life that has made a significant impact upon you. In fact, you could say that had influence. If you have that person in mind, ask yourself, what were the characteristics or attributes that allowed them to make an impact upon you and with you? I'd ask you, is it a God-given talent, or was it an attitude? And if it was an attitude, then it's a choice. So every one of us has a choice to be a leader, to make a contribution, and to change lives. The second value of Rotary is integrity. We do the four-way test and agree that we want to align our ethics and integrate them into our personal and professional lives. I'd like to share a story with you that caused some challenges to our family, but actually kind of reinforced where I'm going with this. About 20 years ago, I was in Hong Kong. We were celebrating, the company was celebrating its anniversary of success. And honestly, the North America was the focal point because we had been providing a great amount of contribution to the company. I had a board member come up to me and ask me to write a disparaging letter about my counterpart in Asia. I told that gentleman that I did not hire that person. I am not responsible for that person, and I'm not writing a letter. Honestly, I knew right then and there that I was going to be terminated. That was in February, and I stuck around till April 1. And the reason is because March 31st was the end of our fiscal year, and I needed to get a bonus because I knew I was quitting. So I resigned April 1. They thought it was April Fool's. No, what I saw was I climbed the long ladder of success. And I believe each and every one of us are going to come with a moment in time where we're going to have to be faced with the decision is, do we do things for money, or do we do things because it's the right way to do things? And I believe if we make the integrous choice, then we elevate our characters and allows us to be better leaders and allows us to make a greater impact in our community. The third value of Rotary is diversity. This one's rather interesting. A lot of people think it has to do with race or religion. I'd like us to just get rid of that thought. And I want you to think about something. It really has to do with our biases. Allow me to share with you what I mean. After resigning from corporate America, I taught MBA students. In fact, I taught strategic decision making and had the students, if you haven't done this, I'd ask you to take a look at it. It's called Implicit Acceptance Test, IAT. Harvard has these 21 different assessments that you can take. So along with the students, I took one and shared the results. I wanted to share this with you. Honestly, I'm from Chicago. And before I go any further, I'm probably going to give away my age, but who here remembers, show of hands, Archie Bunker? Okay, let me tell you something. That was my dad. All right. So that's kind of what I wanted to let you know how I was raised. So in this implicit acceptance test, I took the assessment about inherently Chicago's a racially segregated city. So I thought I would have a bias towards African Americans. Surprisingly, the results showed that I did not. Interestingly enough, I did show an unconscious bias towards people of the Islam faith. And I'm like, how can it be? I didn't go to school with anybody that followed that faith. I didn't live with anybody next door to my neighbors. Where did that come from? So what I decided to do with my wife's concurrence, you always got to run things by the boss. We had 3 couples over that practiced Muslim, that were Muslims. We asked their approval. We were acquaintances, not good friends, but we had them over for dinner. And they were accepting and open to us asking questions about their faith. Now, we had a wonderful dinner and a wonderful conversation. I am just a nerd enough to go back online the next morning to go do the assessment. Guess what? The bias was gone. So what it revealed to me was, if we're open, honest, authentic, curious, want to understand, we can get rid of our biases. I believe diversity is nothing more than being open and accepting. I didn't say we have to agree. We just have to be open and accepting. And as Rotarians, that allows us to get different perspectives and a broader view of the world. The fourth element or value of Rotary is service. I'm going to be really honest with you here. I didn't join Rotary to do service. Initially and selfishly, I joined Rotary to get to know the community leaders. Because I was traveling so much internationally and never in my hometown, I joined Rotary so I could get to know the mayor, the city council people, the police chief. And within a few months of joining Rotary, we had our first service project. It benefited women and children that were starting their lives over as a result of domestic abuse. Our community filled a 40-foot container of household goods within 4.5 hours. 2 weeks later, those kids came back and shared with our Rotary Club how we impacted their lives. There wasn't a dry eye in that Rotary Club. And I got to tell you, from that moment on, the tattoos were implanted on my backside with Rotary. Service then became a part of me as a result of that project. So I believe service can permeate people's hearts and make them better. The last one is fellowship. This is kind of interesting. Remember, this is the guy that joined Rotary so he could get to know people. When my wife and I recently celebrated 40 years, she, by the way, will tell you there were 28 years of the happiest years of her life. I have no idea what happened to the other 12. But when we had 40 years, we invited 40 people. Those 40 people had to impact both of our lives as married couple. When I looked around the room, Do you know that 25% of those people were Rotarians? So here's a guy that joined selflessly to get to know people. And then all of a sudden now, as a result of Rotary, we have lifelong friends. I just want to share with you how Rotary can impact lives. With those 5 values, I mention those because those are the things, no matter what happens in Portland with gun violence or with any issue that we might have, politics per se, if we remember as Rotarians that those are the core values that hold us together, we can accomplish great things. So having stated that, let's explore FIRE now that we have a foundation. Again, FIRE is flexibility, impact, reach, and engagement. Let's talk about flexibility. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, I happen to be in my business career a turnaround guy. And if you're not familiar with that, that basically means if a company's not doing well, they bring in a turnaround team. And basically, I can tell you that things are going to change. I love change. I embrace it. In fact, sometimes even if it's working, I'll try and break it and make it better. You know what? As part of turnaround, what I learned is that FAIL is an acronym for first attempt in learning. And what I mean by that is you never fail as long as you keep learning and trying something new. The other thing is fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. You cannot have fear unless there's a human host. And what I mean by all that is, you know what, just be willing to make a change and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because change may be difficult, but honestly, the ability to change allows you to be flexible and think differently. John Huco, the General Secretary and President of Rotary International at the 1st of July, which is the beginning of the Rotary year, got on the call with 520 of his closest friends, which is put quotes around that. Those are the district governors around the world, and told us, interestingly enough, that Rotary International is growing in membership. Rotary North America is not. If you can envision 50, 60 years ago, Rotary in the United States made up over 80% of the membership. Today, it makes up less than, I think it's 40% today. Yet, we're staying the same, which means we're growing in Asia, Africa, and South America, and Europe and the United States are not so much. So that made me start to think, well, what is that? And why is that? So I have a couple of questions. Maybe you can answer these in the chat. But the question then becomes, what is the average age of Rotarians today in North America, specifically in our district, as a matter of fact? I don't know if anybody wants to put something in the chat. I'll look at it. But it's 59 and a half. Now I'm going to ask you something. This is going to be a shocker. What's the average age of our workforce in America? 39. What does Rotary look like 20 years from now? Are we, as a Rotary club, are we attractive to the person in the workforce? The average American, two of their most precious assets are time and money. We meet, 70% of the clubs meet at noon. Maybe we ought to take a look at alternatives, flexibility, different times, people that are working. Many years ago, when Rotary started, most people were entrepreneurs. Today, over 90% of the people are employees. Are we flexible? I don't know. Here's the question I ask. I ask, what is our product? A lot of people, what may come to your front of your mind right now is service. I would offer that service is only one aspect. Our product, being a business guy in my past life, our product really is much more. It's our website, it's our socials, it's our meetings, it's our service projects, it's everything we do. It's the entire club experience. So then I'd say to yourself, is the club, is it attractive? If so, great. If not, be okay, willing to change it. Do you know, this is an interesting stat. Almost 1 out of 3 Rotarians that join Rotary do not join Rotary in the second year. They don't renew their membership. The question I have, I don't know the East Portland Club, and it's certainly not an indictment. I'm just asking questions. Are we engaging and being flexible enough for individuals? And is our product appropriate for them? And are we attractive? I have one quick story to tell you of rather, you know, they say you're not supposed to talk about your club, but no one's from West Lynn Club, so I'll talk about it. I attended a club meeting, and I noticed this young person was up front. We sit in tables of rounds, like tables of 6, right? Pre-COVID. And I noticed that he, at the end of the meeting, nobody from the table was really talking with this guy. So I'm in the back of the room, I head up there. I go, hey, Ben, do you want to go out to lunch or coffee and talk a little bit? He goes, Jim, if you're taking me out to lunch, we'll go there since you're buying. I learned from there. I'll offer coffee the next time. Anyway, so Ben and I go to lunch. Guess what? Here's what I find out. He's 24. He moves to this town, knows nobody, starting his own business, was captain of his baseball team, played Division I baseball on a scholarship, was a leader in his fraternity, and graduated in the top 10% of his class. Is this not the ideal person we want in Rotary? Yet he told me he didn't feel like he fit in. So rather than make that individual fit in, we created a new pathway for him to join. We created the Satellite Club of West Lynn. He and my wife and others joined that club. My wife at the time was employed and couldn't come to drive 20 minutes to go to a meeting that lasted an hour and 15 minutes and then drive back 20 minutes. My point is that we have to be open and be flexible enough. Enough about flexibility with regards to that, but I will share with you that our district is doing everything possible to help clubs in this regard. We have created a Grow Rotary Committee, which is there if you want to explore a satellite club. Some people are opening up night or happy hour clubs and sponsoring happy hour clubs as a satellite club. So they're just members of your regular club. They just meet at different times. Anyway, we're also doing some other things, helping clubs with retention. We've never before hit a 90% retention rate, meaning if we started with X and 90% of those members were still members at the end of the year, we've never done that. This year, we're on a pace to hit 89%. Our goal is 90. So we're helping clubs, what I call with stickiness and engagement. We're also holding best practices every quarter so that we can learn from what membership is doing. Also, there are no district dues this year for any new member. What the club decides to do is up to them. I know some clubs have done 2 for 1. Some clubs have given free dues for young professionals under 40. Whatever the club decides to do, we want you to know that the district is partnering and serving you and trying to help you. Also, there is no training at all, any training, pre-pets, district training assembly, Vibrant Club training, TRF, any and all training is provided free. So all we're doing is trying to invest and serve clubs. Let's leave flexibility now, because I just wanted to give you a background of be willing and open to try different things. Let's talk about impact. Can I ask, Jim, who's the treasurer for your organization this year? I don't know that off the top of my head. Denny, I'm here. We're here to help you. You'll see where I'm going with this question. I don't believe Rotary, specifically the East Portland Rotary Club, gets enough credit for what it does in the community. And here's where I'm going with this. Wouldn't it be amazing? Rotary International says that clubs get or can appropriate or value 1 service hour equal to $25. So if you took everybody in the club and you multiplied their hours of service by 25, would you think that number would be have true economic value? I think it'd be significant with this. But further, let's add on some things. Let's add on your fundraisers Let's add on the contributions to your club foundation and or your Rotary Foundation. Let's add on matching district grants and global grants and any donations you might get from outside. If you extrapolate that for this year, I'll bet you that number is in 6 figures. And then if you took, think about this, if you took that and extrapolated that by the number of years the Rotary Club of East Portland has been in existence, that number's probably got 2 commas in it. If you put that out and you say the Rotary Club of East Portland has contributed X number of million to the community, I guarantee you would light some people's eyes. I don't think we get enough credit for what we do. This year, in terms of partnerships and trying to make a greater impact, we have offered, it is certainly not a directive, but we are coordinating with Habitat for Humanity on their 24 different affiliates throughout Southern Washington and Oregon to work a day of service. The day of service for Rotary is Saturday, April 30th. So we're coordinating that, and I'll get more information out to the clubs through the AGs in February. We're also partnering with Free Bikes for Kids. I don't know about you, but how many can remember their first bike? Man, it was like I got my driver's license. I'm talking about the one without training wheels, the one that you could go free and go explore the neighborhood. I must have gone 2 miles away from home the first day and I thought I was free. It was awesome. So we're doing Free Bikes for Kids, and we're partnering with WashCo, which is Washington County, and also another nonprofit. So we'll be collecting bikes. I think we served SEI with 640 bikes last year, and our goal is 1,000 bikes this year. So we'll talk about how we can do that on the day of service. We also looked at, and we have done, you may have heard of this, a shower cart. There were like 6 or 7 Rotary clubs that partnered together to do a shower cart to accommodate homeless. Now you're saying, well, wouldn't that attract homeless? That's initially what I thought. But guess what? We were able to provide hygiene for women who then felt qualified to go out and look for a job. And they, in turn, found a way into the workforce and out of the homeless. So I would ask you to take a look at all sorts of different things, because there's ways we can make an impact. There's also some communities that had community leadership summits, and they invited leaders of their community, talked about and did a community assessment, and then engaged the community leaders to help them with impact projects. So there's many ways we can do it. The third element of FIRE is reach. Sometimes people think reach has to do with public image. Well, it does include that, but it's much more. It's much more than billboards, brand central, partnerships with local news, PSA, or public service announcements. Diversity really is, does it reflect your community? And are you expanding your reach? And remember Ben, the 24-year-old baseball player? Let me tie into this and share with you. I received a note through our Facebook page, and an individual asked me if I'd like to meet them. I learned I didn't offer lunch, I offered coffee this time. And I met the lady, and the individual I met was Dr. Joy Fashumutari. You're saying, who's she? Well, she's a professor at PSU, now also at Pacific University. And she had a nonprofit. She joined the Satellite Club of Westland, and we are now shipping baseball equipment, used baseball equipment, to Zimbabwe. And next year, Ben is actually thinking about going to Africa to go coach and train disadvantaged children. That's the kind of reach I'm talking about. We can reach anywhere our imaginations and minds can go with Rotary. I just say leverage your strengths. As the district, we know we have some strengths in TRF, in peace building, training and development, perhaps YEX or Youth Exchange, and Pacific Northwest PEX. What is your strengths that the East Portland Rotary Club can leverage? Because that's how you can make a truly great reach. We've done some things at the district also to help you. You've heard Dr. Renee talk about the DG Jam. Well, we are setting up a technology and communication video studio at the district office that anybody can use. And we found that videos are a better way to communicate. I don't know about you, but I get a little tired of emails. So we're using videos, and we have bumped up. You know, last year, the newsletter for the district was somewhere around 20 to 30% open rate. Now we're over 50% open rate, which means over half the people in the district are now opening it and looking at it. So we know it's a better way to communicate. Maybe you could look at that as well. Let's talk about the last element of fire, engagement. This one gets me. Okay, so we're going to start out. You're saying this doesn't have anything to do with engagement, but you'll get where I'm going with this. How many here have perfect attendance? Anybody? Raise your hand. Great. I want to thank you for that, for your commitment. Would you agree with me, those that raise their hand, that it's relatively easy to measure perfect attendance? I want to ask the question of the club right now. How do you measure perfect engagement? Not easy, is it? I would ask the board to take that question on and define it, because it will give you a benchmark for individuals and a level. People that join Rotary and don't stay, they may not be engaged, but they may not know what that looks like. And I believe that if the board or the club establishes what engagement looks like, I think you got a great foundation for where to go. You know, I got a story. Remember, Renee was talking about sponsors. So when I moved here, I told you I was traveling a lot. I had a lot of dry cleaning because they were wearing suits that by then. And I mean, I'm still wearing suits and ties and dress shirts. So every time I go into my dry cleaner, oh, by the way, that my dry cleaner was Thomas Joseph. How many here know him? He's a Rotarian, a longtime Rotarian. Okay. Thomas Joseph would keep asking me out for lunch. And I thought, and I gotta be honest with you, I thought he was hitting on me. I'm like, hey, Thomas, I like you. I just want dry cleaning. He says, Jim, you never told me why. But when I left corporate America and I stopped traveling, I told him, okay, Thomas, you want to go to lunch? Okay, let's go to lunch. That's when he introduced me to Rotary. All he wanted to do was introduce me to Rotary. And it was like, oh my gosh, the power of one. All he had to do was he kept asking me. And sooner or later, he introduced me to Rotary. It's a result of Thomas, my sponsor, that I'm in Rotary, and 32 other people are now in Rotary. I think we don't reward sponsors enough. So what we did this year is we put together a program that the district, all people, all Rotarians that sponsor another Rotarian is eligible for a drawing. And that drawing, if you win, you get to go to the international convention free of charge on the district. And also another drawing will be taken, and you can come to the district One Rotary Conference in Seaside, September 18th to the 22nd, 19th through the 22nd. We also try to enhance engagement by looking and implementing something called the Rotary Story Slam. Dr. Renee Fontenot was very instrumental in helping this thing off the ground. This year, the purpose is to share your Rotary story on how Rotary affected you or how you were able to impact others. By sharing that 3 to 4 minute story, you can actually help people realize where they can have an impact as well. So if that portion, in fact, if you win that regional competition, I don't know if this club participated in that, Jim, but if it did, they can you can get win a $500 cash bonus. So as we alluded to before, we're getting close to the end. We have a One Rotary Conference. We called it One Rotary Conference because before, you're going to think this is, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but Lori, this won't be the first time. When I found out 3 years ago that I was fortunate enough to be selected to lead the district in Rotary year 21-22, I went and met with 21 different past district governors. I asked district governors what it is I needed to know, because there's a lot of things I don't know. And I asked them, what did they thought about the following idea? Why wouldn't we coordinate and have simultaneously a Rotary a Rotary district training assembly along with a district conference? Most district governors, except the past district governor on this call, didn't think it was a good idea. Guess what? We didn't go with the majority. We ended up doing, because this isn't about district governor or about what district governor should do or district governor elect who's responsible for training. This is about clubs, and clubs didn't want to give up extra Saturdays in their schedule. So we decided to call it the One Rotary Conference, and we're going to have spring training and a club and district celebration at the same time. So, and we'll recognize boards as well as presidents and also accomplishments for everybody. Well, you know what? If you haven't been to a Rotary conference in Seaside, I would ask that you do that. And I'll tell you why. You will learn more, you will be inspired, and you will certainly have a celebration, because we've done some amazing things this year in spite of the global pandemic. So we shared with you here how we're going to serve and support clubs through new programs and innovative initiatives. And we're committed as a district to help clubs become stronger and successful. And I guess I just wanted to let you know that we're in a pursuit of excellence, and we'll do it through fire. And our fire is to serve clubs. In conclusion, I'd like to say this. If joy comes from giving, and giving leads to a life of significance, I'd ask you to do one of three things to be significant. I'd ask you to first share Rotary with somebody. I didn't say recruit, I just said share. Let somebody know about it. Bring them to a fireside, bring them to a social, bring them to a service project. It doesn't always have to be a meeting. Share Rotary with somebody. Number two, share your Rotary story. We're not 1.2 or 1.4 million people that are service-minded. This is about how we collected home goods to positively impact a dozen women and children to start over. This is about doing things for people. The third thing is I'd ask you to continue to give your talents, commit your time, and invest your treasures to serve the underserved. I guess I simply ask you that you'd share your fire so that Rotary can continue to make a difference in the world as we serve to change lives. Thank you for listening. I'm open to answering any questions that you may have.
Yeah, let's take a couple of minutes. Anybody have a question or a response?
Usually I get a question about the satellite club. We had as a goal this year to formulate 10 satellite clubs. We now have 6. Some of them are cause-based, some of them are epic, some of them, we're starting one, get this, we're starting one for individuals of diverse disabilities. Heretofore, we've never had a pathway in. Now we have a pathway for individuals with diverse disabilities. So they are a satellite club. They don't have perhaps the bandwidth or the operational or administrative expertise to run a club, but they certainly can do service and they want to be part of something. That's a perfect example. So thinking outside the box and just trying to create something for people that want to make a difference. Thanks, Jim. I really appreciate it. And thank you for putting in the effort to share the PowerPoint on all the things this club does. It's amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you for your resiliency and your commitment to Rotary.
Well,
I see that Richard has a question.
He does. Thank you, Governor Jim. That was wonderful, very inspiring and informative. My thought, my contribution is to consider partnering with other organizations, such as I did during my presidency in connection with community service projects. For example, I had my Elks brothers and sisters join us for home rehab. It worked beautifully. So it's a good way to multiply our force, to recruit members. So let's think about joining other groups, clubs, and organizations to do our wonderful work in the community. Thank you once again.
Thank you for that comment. We, as a West Lynn club, recently partnered with the Lions Club of West Lynn, and we did a garden for West Lynn. I think that's Richard, that is a wonderful idea. And clubs have the opportunity to do whatever they want. They are empowered to go look and form partnerships.
Thank you.
Okay,